From the EPAWA headquarters in South Allentown, Pennsylvania, this is Weather Weeklies, an informative video blog on the ins and outs of weather that affect you most in the EPAWA coverage area. The thoughts and opinions in this video are those of the forecaster alone and may or may not reflect the thoughts of the EPAWA staff as a whole, nor its constituents. Now, without further ado, here is meteorologist Bobby Martrich with Weather Weeklies.
Hey, good Sunday morning to another edition of Weather Weeklies for Sunday, November 19th. I have a lot to get through in this video, so I do want to get to that right away. Go into the long range first, which we always start off with. This is a recap of what we'd had from the long range outlook on Friday. So, cold front moving through very early this morning. We had temperatures very warm overnight right before the cold front moved through, and now we're going back to temperatures falling through the 40s today. Slightly below average temperatures are going to remain in place through about the 20th, which is, of course, that would be Monday. So we get to Tuesday, we're going to warm up into the 50s again right ahead of the next trough that's going to come in, which will be with us over Thanksgiving. That comes in Wednesday through Black Friday. So Thanksgiving is included in that. We're going to have below average temperature. So we'll be colder over your holiday, but not snowy or wet or anything like that. We're going to be a dry period through there. Then it starts to moderate a little bit next weekend, but still staying slightly below average. And then back to below average again with another deep shot of cold air that's going to last into right through the end of the month and maybe their first day or two of December. After that point, we see the slightly above average. We're going to have that for at least a week. All right, I do think we get slightly above average temperatures and before the pattern reloads and we get back into at least slightly below average temperatures after that, and that's going to come toward the middle of the month. During the second week of December, I think we're going to flip and get into a more colder and snowier pattern. Snowier this time because we have more amplification to the jet that is expected in this time frame. I'll get into that in this video, why we're not having this issue right now. Here is the La Niña in the Eastern Pacific. We put this image here every week and just show you what the change was from the previous week, just so you can see not just where the numbers are, but where we were last week. This is cooling in all regions. All the regions are cooler. Most notably here is the change to Niña 3.4. That's this area in the middle, a centralized area of the Pacific. This is becoming more of a instead of just being east-based, it still is technically east-based, at least east-based La Niña, but it's starting to transition more centralized or basin-wide. We're starting to see that these coolest waters starting to transport westward in the Atlantic. This is typical, or excuse me, in the Pacific. This is typical of what happens each and every year. If you start off in the east base, it's hard to keep it there. It's going to eventually move west, and how quickly that does so and how far west it goes makes a big difference in what our weather is here. We showed this in the last video. East base versus west base matters. Very cold temperatures are typically in an east base La Niña, and in a west based, the southeast ridge really gets a flex, so everywhere south and east of the Mississippi River just torches for winter, and then all your cold is up here. I don't think the west base is on the table. I think we're more either east, centralized. It's probably going to end up heading toward a centralized Niña. I looked at the CFS V2, which projects the sea surface temperatures out a month ahead, and it does look like in the month of December we are going to head toward more of a centralized La Niña. So away from the east base and getting more centralized, which isn't a bad thing at all. Okay, we're using our top analogs. Again, this is the first time I'm showing this in public. This is actually from our winter outlook, which we did not share publicly, and we're not going to share you the monthly breakdown of what we expect like we had in the outlooks there, but these are the analogs that we used. You can see a couple of these. They all started off east base. This is current. We're in the weak La Niña, east base as of November 17th, but it's starting to propagate westward. Slight positive PDO and a negative QBO. These haven't changed. And the northern hemisphere snow cover in November is above normal, and that hasn't changed. So that's where we are right now. Okay. If you look at a lot of these years, like 2005, 2006, we started off east based, became west based in January. All right, so it did move westward. I don't know if we become west-based. It's not really a setup for that this year to become a west-based Niña, but there are some years, so like this one here's east-based, became west-based in January also. This one here, 83-84, became basin-wide. I think this one is probably more likely to happen. Something is basin-wide, okay? 96-97, this is another one that's very likely to happen. 96-97, all right? Now this neutral negative ENSO, this is probably not strong enough of a Niña here, not strong enough of a negative QBO, so I wouldn't put this high on the list, but the whole idea, east base became centralized, okay? East base became basin wide. 95, 96 is another good one. Now, before you jump the gun here and say, wow, that was a big snow year, that means we're going to get a lot of snow. No, it doesn't necessarily mean this. This was an anomaly this year. A lot of things were going right that, you know, sometimes some things that just go right sometimes. Some things just go wrong other times. Like you're looking for something to happen to change your fortune, and it just doesn't sometimes. Other years, you just can't get away from it. And like, you know, we had a year like that several years ago, you know, with just snow after snow after snow. This is one of those anomaly years. So I really don't look at that snowfall that year and say, wow, that, you know, 75 inches of snow, it's a lot. Yeah, it is, but it's not really typical of what happens in this pattern. So that was an anomaly. But the whole point is that east base became basin wide December, January, February. Okay, so everything's east base became centralized 67, 68. That also happened. So the whole idea here is that it doesn't remain east based, and it is going to eventually move somewhere. How quickly that moves will have the downstream implications on our weather. And so will snow cover propagation. Here's the snow cover currently across Canada. We talked about this in the last couple of videos. Very extensive across Canada, and lighter amounts down to the southern parts here, but obviously getting pretty deep further north. This is a current, this is not a projection, this is current. The projection in 10 days now, the rich get richer. Okay, deep snow across much of Canada. But if you notice, here's where the United States starts right here. Not much getting into the United States, very little, in fact, getting down that far south. So why is that? Why are we not getting any of this? Shouldn't this come south and be more prone to coming south? Well, yeah, it will. But you guys got to remember, it's November 19th. Okay, so November 19th, it's just building. It's still building up here. It's not really needed. It doesn't. We don't need this to come down yet. We still got leaves on the trees. It's not winter yet. I know you can get snow in November. It's not uncommon, but it's not probable either. All right, so it's still early. We are projecting to have an earlier start to winter than we've had recently. The last couple of years, I mean, keep in mind we're not too far removed from the days that we were wearing shorts on Christmas Eve. All right, I'm sure many of you remember that. So we will have this come down. We're just going to put down earlier than the last couple of years. That means December is going to be more active and snowier than we've seen in the last couple of years. And compared to normal, I think we can actually finish above average for December in terms of snowfall. But this is going to help with that eventually. It's just not happening yet. All right, so eventually, when you get in a La Nina pattern, of course, is with the variable jet stream, you have this dip where it starts coming down into the United States, over the Great Lakes, and eventually our area. That's what a typical La Nina does, and it will eventually do that. Okay, but right now, the reason why it's staying up there right now is we have a very fast Pacific jet, so it's a zonal flow, fast west to east. Now, eventually, you get these little mini ridges and mini troughs. Okay, this is the jet. This is what's driving our weather. Moving these little systems that come across the country from west to east is rendering them weak and generally fast moving west to east. Okay, so there's not really too much to them. That's what's going to happen here with this jet. Now, everybody saw this NAO here and got excited. Oh, the negative NAO. We're going to get some big storm along the East Coast. I've seen plenty of social media accounts from professional meteorologists and everything talking about this big snowstorm that's going to happen because of all this cold and the negative NAO along the East Coast. I don't know what they're looking at. I really don't. This does not, just because you have a negative NAO, does not mean big East Coast storm necessarily. Okay, if the flow is still fast west to east and you have no amplification, and when I'm talking about amplification, you remember those wavelengths we did in school? I mean, back in high school. Here's the wavelengths here. You got they look like this. Okay, here's your wavelengths. That's amplified. That's what I mean by amplified. Okay, ridges, troughs, ridges, troughs. That's an amplified pattern. Now, this is exaggerated for argument's sake here, but if this is not amplified, this is fast west to east. And in 10 days from now, here's what it looks like. This is also not amplified. This is projected 10 days from now. This is, look, here's your jet. So where's your amplification? A little bit out here. You got an amplification. There's a trough here. That's amplification here. All right, but there's not across the United States here. Of course, here's PA and New Jersey and Delaware. That's right here. Everything's still fast east and fast west to east, fast moving, in and out. Relatively weak. Nothing's really changed, and we still have the negative NAO at that time frame. This is that same time frame. So you get the cold. That's all it does. Here's that time frame right around that 27th period. That's right after Thanksgiving. weekend. So we get into the following week here, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, you can get cold temperatures. That's thanks to that negative NAO. That's all it does for you. It doesn't do anything with systems. So the notion that I'm hearing from people on social media, especially on Twitter and professional meteorologists, suggesting that this is going to be the case. We're going to have this big storm. Watch out for this big storm along the East Coast. There is no big storm, and it's not because the models aren't picking up on it. It's just because we had that flat flow. There's nothing really in blocking here in the Atlantic to slow down this pattern. There's nothing to slow down this pattern. So everything's quickly moving fast east. And this is a projecting 10 days from now. It's not going to change. You occasionally get a little bit of a spike, right? And that's it. All right, so with that being said, what can get that to change? What can change that downstream? One of the things that can change is the Southern Oscillation Index. What we're doing with the Southern Oscillation Index is measuring the difference in pressure between Darwin, Australia, which is right about here, and Tahiti, which is right about here. So the pressure differences between the two lead to either a flatter pattern or a more amplified pattern. When the current values right now that we can see, here's just the 14th out to the 19th. This is from the 14th till today. They're all plus 12, plus 11, plus 15, plus 12, 13, 12. These are all positive values. When we start getting negative 20 or something like that, you're talking about a more amplified pattern. These positive numbers here represent more of a flatter look, and that's it. So you don't really have much amplification. It's more of a flatter and longer wavelength pattern, with the Southern Oscillation Index being in that position. Same thing with the atmospheric angular momentum. I don't want to get too much into this because I'm going to really confuse some people here. But right now, basically, it's a measure of how fast the atmosphere is spinning relative to the Earth's rotation, which is pretty close to a constant. So you're measuring how fast the atmosphere is spinning relative to it. So the positive AMs here are indicating a faster flow. If it's a negative AM, which is these over here, that slows up the pattern. So if the pattern slows up, you get increased wavelengths again. Your wavelengths are going like this. So this is your wavelength. In this case, is your jet stream. Higher, you have more amplitude in this, and the negative AM, low AM state here is what promotes that. So there's a lot of things that figure into things of how you get the jet to slow down, how do you get the pattern to slow down. These are some things that will help with that. Also, what will help with it is the Madden-Julian Oscillation being in the correct phases. You can have amplification all you want, but if they're in the wrong phases, like out here, it's going to eventually go into the Indian Ocean here, as far as the best tropical forcing or convection along the equatorial regions, and it's going to eventually make its way up here somewhere towards phase 6 and eventually phase 7. Well, if you have amplification, that's great, but if it's in the wrong phases, these are warm phases. Phase 3, phase 4, phase 5, phase 6, all warm phases. We get to phase 7 and start getting colder again. All right, so it's going to eventually get there toward the middle of the month. This is the Euro Weekly projection here, by the way. So we will get help for that, but it does promote that with the positive AAM state currently, positive SOI, and in combination with the Madden-Julian Oscillation in unfavorable phases, that we're going to have this. All right, we're going to have this in the beginning of December. It's going to be milder. All right, you can see this is just the 3rd to the 7th. We do these and say this is 16 to 20 days. That's the max we go out for the public outlooks. If I extended this to days 21 to 25, it would be pretty much the same thing. Still above normal. I do think at some point during the 2nd week of December, we see a flip. It might be toward the end of that 2nd week, but we're going to see a flip back to the colder than average temperatures. This, by the way, is the week prior to that. This is that week where you have a deep trough in the United States. It's going to be relatively transient, lasting a couple days, in and out. Very cold before it does so. So Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday of next week are going to be, of the following week are going to be even really cold again. And then it starts to moderate Thursday, Friday. And then when we get toward the weekend, it starts to really warm up again. This is December 3rd through the 7th. The 8th through the 12th is also going to be slightly above average. After that point, we see some kind of transition, and we go into not only a colder pattern, but so instead of just doing this and putting cold here and that's it, and what some people would refer to as wasted cold, you don't have any snow to accompany it, you're also going to have deep, higher amplification of the jet, so you won't see such a flat look like this. It'll be, and then you can get some bigger storms here along the coast and get into more of a winter pattern. All right, we're colder, we get an increased amount of moisture, we get a more amplified pattern, and you can get obviously more storms. So we are looking at that time frame to be right around the second week of December, sometime during the second week of December to transition. And if you're looking for big winter storm, maybe around the 15th to the 20th, if I had to guess right now. I mean, it's still, you're going out of over a month here right now. Today's the 19th of November. So I think that's your best chance. If you're hearing things about these big storms coming at the end of the month, just ignore them for a while, or at least understand where those meteorologists are forecasting for. Some of them are talking about the interior of New England. It might be including, when they say the Northeast, it doesn't necessarily include, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. It might be talking about upstate Watertown, New York, with lake effect snow. This is a pattern, even in the zonal pattern, you can still get these fast-moving clippers that come down here and give you a little bit of light snow, where you can get a cold front passage and give you a little quick shot of snow, or once the front passage, you get some lake effect snow coming off of Lakes Erie and Ontario. That is the kind of pattern we're going to be in through the end of the month. But as far as big storms, if you're hearing nonsense about that right now, I would just ignore it. If we see something that's going to change, obviously we will alert you to that. But right now, I don't see anything that is supportive of that through the end of the month or for the first 10 days or so of December. After that point, maybe so. We start getting into more amplification. But until then, I just put that on the back burner. Of course, we discuss this every day in the premium forum for the My Pocket Meteorologist. This is a very interactive forum that if you have not become a member of this yet, you're really going to be missing out once we start model analysis for these storms once they do hit. So we also have text alerts that can be sent directly to your phone for any systems, whether they're wintry or not. If they meet the threshold for rain, we had to send alerts a couple days ago for rain and wind, and for any snow shower, snow squalls that happen up until we get into these really big severe threats. But it's time to get into that is now. If you click on the image below this video, the My Pocket Meteorologist video, it'll take you right to the sign up page, which will get you the winter weather alerts and or premium forum. You can even bundle these together at a discounted rate, saving yourself 30% by having the two together. So very interactive forum where we ask all the question and answers, and we go through a very in-depth model analysis of every single storm. So if you have not checked that out yet, please do so. We're getting into those, we're running out of time now before we start getting to the model analysis for the first winter threats. They're coming very soon, as explained in this video, but time to get on that is now, and you can go and click on that image below the video to become part of Eastern PA Weather Authority and Weather New Jersey's My Pocket Meteorologist program. That's it for this edition of Weather Weeklies for Sunday, November 19th. I hope you join us again next week. We'll hopefully have a better handle on what we're looking at, and with this pattern change expected toward the second week of December. I have more information on that next week, as we always do every Sunday morning. Take care.